Something feels seriously off inside the Cleveland Browns organization right now. And for a lot of fans, the biggest warning sign wasn't even a loss, a bad press conference, or another quarterback controversy. It was the fact that Myles Garrett, the face of the franchise and arguably the best defensive player in football, skipped Browns workouts, while Shedeur reportedly kept showing up early every single morning studying film before most people even entered the building. That contrast immediately caught people's attention. Because while the Browns continue trying to convince fans everything is stable internally, more and more signs are starting to suggest the exact opposite. Myles Garrett publicly admitted he doesn't feel aligned with the organization's direction. Rumors are flying about tension inside the building. And now fans are beginning to connect the dots between Garrett's frustration, the Deshaun Watson situation, and the way Cleveland appears to be handling Shedeur behind the scenes. And honestly, once you start looking closely at the timeline, the entire situation becomes way more complicated than people realize. Because this may no longer just be about football anymore. When Myles Garrett sat down with Rich Eisen, a lot of people expected the usual polished NFL answers, generic responses, safe comments, maybe a little frustration about losing seasons mixed with loyalty toward the organization. Instead, what fans got sounded like somebody who had quietly reached his breaking point. Garrett didn't sound emotional. He didn't sound angry. Honestly, that's what made the interview hit even harder. He calmly explained that after speaking with family members, agents, and people close to him, he no longer believed he was aligned with where the Browns were heading in the near future. And the second he said those words, NFL fans immediately understood this wasn't just another athlete trying to negotiate for more money. In fact, Garrett specifically said it wasn't about money at all. He talked about wanting championships, wanting meaningful football games, wanting a real chance to compete while he's still in his prime. He even admitted that he spoke with LeBron James about what it feels like to leave a city you genuinely love because you no longer believe the organization can get where it promised to go. That part really shook Browns fans. Because Garrett has spent years being the face of Cleveland football, he stayed loyal through losing seasons, through coaching changes, through roster rebuilds, through quarterback disasters. Fans genuinely believed he would retire as a Brown, so hearing him openly question the direction of the franchise immediately changed the energy surrounding the team. And according to growing speculation online, this frustration may have been building much longer than people realized. Some fans believe Garrett lost trust after watching the Browns repeatedly make decisions that felt disconnected from actual football logic. Others think the Deshaun Watson contract completely changed how veterans inside the building viewed ownership and management. A few analysts even suggested Garrett may feel like the Browns keep prioritizing headlines and damage control over building a stable championship culture. Of course, none of that has been officially confirmed by Garrett himself. But what made the interview so powerful was how direct he sounded without ever raising his voice. He sounded exhausted. And once fans started connecting his comments to what's happening around Shedeur, the entire situation suddenly became even more controversial. Because many people now believe the Browns' quarterback situation may be exactly what finally pushed Garrett over the edge. No matter how much the Browns organization tries to move forward, the Deshaun Watson situation continues hanging over everything happening in Cleveland like a cloud that never disappears. And according to many fans and analysts, that contract may still be the single biggest reason the franchise feels unstable today. When Cleveland gave Watson that massive, fully guaranteed deal, it completely changed expectations around the organization. Ownership believed they were securing a franchise quarterback capable of bringing championships to the city. Instead, the move created non-stop controversy, pressure, and uncertainty that the Browns still haven't escaped years later. Now rumors and speculation continue spreading about internal frustration inside the building. Some reports claim certain football people within the organization never fully supported the move in the first place. Others believe ownership forced decisions that changed the entire direction of the franchise. On sports shows and podcasts, analysts have openly questioned whether the Watson contract damaged trust between players, coaches, and executives behind the scenes. Even Pat McAfee's crew heavily hinted at that possibility during discussions about Garrett's frustration. At one point, they joked that Andrew Berry may be stuck defending decisions he never truly wanted while ownership continues pushing its own direction. Again, those are opinions and speculation, not confirmed facts. But the reason fans keep discussing it is because Garrett's comments about not being aligned suddenly made those rumors feel more believable. And honestly, when you step back and look at the timeline, fans understand why the conversation exploded. The Browns traded massive assets for Watson. They committed historic money. Then the team continued struggling while constant questions surrounded the quarterback room. Coaches changed. Offensive systems shifted. Public confidence disappeared. And now, years later, Cleveland somehow finds itself right back in another controversial quarterback battle involving Shedeur Sanders. That's why so many people believe Garrett's frustration isn't just about losing games. It's about organizational direction. Fans online have started comparing Garrett to Joe Thomas, another all-time Browns great who spent years performing at an elite level without ever seeing the franchise become stable long-term. Garrett reportedly sees his championship window shrinking while Cleveland continues dealing with chaos year after year. And while all this drama keeps surrounding the quarterback room, one player quietly started gaining enormous respect behind the scenes. That player was Shedeur Sanders. And according to reports coming out of workouts, veterans inside the building have definitely noticed the difference. While chaos continues surrounding the Browns organization publicly, one thing reportedly keeps standing out behind the scenes: Shedeur Sanders' preparation. According to comments coming from veterans and people around the team, Shedeur has reportedly been showing up early consistently, spending extra time studying film and treating every practice opportunity seriously. In fact, one of the biggest moments fans noticed came when Myles Garrett himself publicly praised Shedeur's work ethic. Garrett specifically mentioned seeing Shedeur arrive early and spend time around the coach's offices before most people even entered the building. That detail mattered, because throughout the entire draft process and media cycle, critics constantly questioned whether Shedeur was too focused on branding, social media attention, and celebrity culture. But reports coming out of Cleveland have painted a very different picture recently. Instead of acting distracted, Shedeur reportedly looks locked into football completely. And veterans notice that quickly. NFL locker rooms don't care about hype nearly as much as fans think they do. Players care about preparation, effort, accountability. Teammates immediately recognize who's taking the job seriously and who is. That's why Garrett publicly acknowledging Shedeur's work ethic became such a huge conversation online. Some fans even believe veterans inside the building already respect Shedeur more than expected this early in his NFL journey. What makes the situation even more interesting is the contrast between Shedeur's energy and the chaos surrounding the Browns' quarterback room overall. While debates continue about Watson, ownership decisions, and coaching uncertainty, Shedeur reportedly just keeps showing up and working. And honestly, that's part of why Browns fans have become so protective of him already. Many supporters feel like Shedeur entered one of the most unstable situations possible while still handling everything maturely. He's constantly under a microscope because of his last name, his popularity, and the attention surrounding him. Yet according to reports, he continues staying positive publicly while focusing heavily on development internally. That's why the next controversy made fans so angry. Because once the Browns started releasing official media content from workouts, people immediately noticed something strange about how Shedeur was being presented compared to other quarterbacks. And online reactions became brutal almost instantly, because fans started wondering whether the Browns were fully committed to developing Shedeur or simply using his popularity for attention. As soon as the Browns released photos and clips from off-season workouts, fans immediately started analyzing every little detail. And according to reactions online, many people didn't like what they saw at all. The biggest issue. Fans felt like the organization was pushing Deshaun Watson heavily in official content, while barely showing Shedeur Sanders, despite all the attention surrounding him. People started counting photos, comparing media posts, looking at which quarterbacks appeared first in team uploads, and once fans noticed Shedeur appearing less frequently in official releases, speculation exploded quickly across social media. Then another detail made the conversation even louder. At one point during practice, fans noticed Shedeur appeared to be mic'd up for Browns content. That instantly triggered another wave of debate online, because supporters started questioning whether Cleveland was using Shedeur's popularity more for entertainment and engagement than actual football commitment. Now, to be fair, none of this officially proves anything negative about the organization. Teams constantly create content around popular players, and Shedeur is undeniably one of the most marketable young athletes in football right now. But perception matters, especially with a fan base already frustrated about the franchise's direction overall. That's why the reactions became so emotional. Some supporters argued the Browns seem more interested in turning Shedeur into a content machine than fully committing to his development as a future quarterback. Others claimed the organization was still trying to protect the Watson narrative publicly while quietly benefiting from Shedeur's massive online popularity at the same time. And honestly, that's where fans started connecting the situation back to Myles Garrett. Because people began wondering whether veterans inside the building were noticing the exact same thing. If Garrett truly respects Shedeur's work ethic and preparation the way reports suggest, some fans believe watching the organization prioritize optics over football could be adding to his frustration. Again, that's speculation, not confirmed fact, but the timeline made people suspicious. Especially because Garrett willingly skipped workouts while losing significant bonus money in the process. That's not something star players usually do casually. And according to growing theories online, his absence may have been sending a much larger message than people realized initially. Because the deeper fans looked into Cleveland's offseason, the more the organization itself started becoming the center of criticism instead of the players. At first, many people treated the Myles Garrett situation and the Shedeur Sanders situation as two completely separate stories. One involved a frustrated superstar defender questioning the future of the franchise. The other involved a young quarterback trying to establish himself inside a chaotic organization. But now, fans are starting to connect the two. And honestly, that's where things get really interesting. According to growing speculation online, Garrett's frustration may not just be about losing seasons anymore. Some fans believe it's also about watching the Browns repeat the same organizational mistakes over and over again, while younger players get caught in the middle of the chaos. That's why people keep bringing up Garrett, publicly praising Shedeur's preparation. Think about it. Garrett reportedly sees Shedeur arriving early, studying film, working consistently, and handling massive pressure professionally. At the same time, the Browns continue dealing with quarterback uncertainty, ownership criticism, and non-stop media drama surrounding Watson. Fans believe veterans inside the building may be watching all of this unfold and quietly questioning whether the organization truly knows what direction it wants to go. And then Garrett skips workouts voluntarily while losing major bonus money. That's what changed everything. Star players don't usually sacrifice money unless they genuinely want to make a statement. Some fans believe Garrett's absence was his way of signaling that frustration inside the building may be deeper than the public realizes. Others think he wanted ownership to understand that players are paying attention to how the organization handles leadership decisions, roster decisions, and quarterback development moving forward. Again, none of this has been officially confirmed by Garrett himself, but once people started connecting the timeline, the theories exploded online quickly, especially because reports and rumors continue suggesting there may still be major disagreements internally about the Browns' long-term direction. And if veterans really are questioning leadership decisions privately, that becomes a massive problem for Cleveland moving forward. Because once locker rooms start losing trust organizationally, rebuilding that confidence becomes extremely difficult. That's why many fans believe this offseason feels different compared to previous Browns controversies. This no longer feels like normal football frustration. It feels personal. And things only became messier once Pat McAfee's crew started openly discussing rumors about ownership, coaching disagreements, and internal dysfunction publicly. Because suddenly, national media personalities weren't just criticizing Cleveland's roster anymore. They started questioning the entire structure of the organization itself. The deeper people looked into the Browns' offseason, the more criticism started shifting directly toward ownership and organizational leadership. And once Pat McAfee's crew began openly discussing rumors surrounding Cleveland internally, the entire situation became even more uncomfortable for Browns fans. One of the biggest talking points centered around Jimmy Haslam and growing speculation that ownership may have overridden football decisions multiple times over the past few years. Some reports and rumors claimed certain coaches and executives weren't fully aligned on major moves involving quarterbacks, coaching hires, and roster direction. Again, these are rumors and opinions circulating publicly, not confirmed internal facts. But the reason fans took them seriously is because Cleveland's instability keeps repeating itself year after year. At one point, McAfee's crew even joked about the Browns potentially operating like they had two head coaches because of rumored disagreements between different parts of the organization. They also discussed speculation that former coaches may have quietly wanted out because of frustration behind the scenes. And honestly, that's when fans really started connecting everything back to Myles Garrett. Because if one of the greatest players in franchise history openly says he no longer feels aligned with the team's direction, people naturally start questioning what's actually happening internally. Some Browns fans even started reviving old theories that ownership continues interfering too heavily in football decisions. Others pointed toward the Watson contract as the moment trust inside the organization allegedly started breaking down completely. Then another rumor made the situation even crazier. There's been online speculation suggesting Kevin Stefanski may have wanted out long before leaving because of how chaotic the Browns situation allegedly became behind closed doors. Again, there's no official confirmation of that, but fans started connecting those rumors to Garrett's comments, coaching turnover, and ongoing quarterback instability. And honestly, perception matters in the NFL almost as much as reality sometimes. Because once players, fans, and media personalities begin viewing an organization as dysfunctional, every future move gets judged through that exact lens. That's exactly what's happening to Cleveland right now. Every photo gets analyzed, every interview becomes a debate, every absence creates speculation. And with mandatory mini-camp approaching, fans are beginning to realize this situation could explode even further if tensions keep building publicly. Because now the Browns aren't just fighting questions about football anymore. They're fighting questions about leadership, trust, and the future of the franchise itself. What makes this entire situation feel so dangerous for the Browns is that every storyline is now connected together at the exact same time. Myles Garrett uncertainty, Deshaun Watson controversy, Shedeur Sanders hype, ownership criticism, coaching rumors, media pressure, quarterback competition drama. Everything is colliding at once. And according to growing speculation online, mandatory mini-camp could become the moment where this entire offseason either calms down or completely explodes publicly. Because fans are now watching Garrett very closely. If he returns and participates normally, some of the tension may cool off temporarily. But if frustration continues publicly, people are going to immediately assume deeper issues still exist inside the building. Especially because Garrett has already shown he's willing to sacrifice money to make his feelings clear. At the same time, pressure surrounding the quarterback room keeps growing rapidly. Rumors continue circulating that one quarterback could eventually get moved because Cleveland reportedly doesn't want to carry 4 quarterbacks into the season. Fans are debating whether the organization is secretly preparing for a transition while still trying to protect the Watson situation publicly. And right in the middle of all this chaos sits Shedeur Sanders. That's what makes the situation so fascinating. Because despite all the dysfunction surrounding the Browns right now, Shedeur's popularity keeps growing. Fans continue rallying behind him. Veterans reportedly respect his preparation. Media attention follows every move he makes. And many supporters now believe he represents hope for a franchise desperately trying to stabilize itself. But that also creates even more pressure. Because if the Browns mishandle his development while everything else around the organization continues falling apart publicly, fans may completely turn against ownership and leadership even harder than before. And honestly, that's why this offseason suddenly feels much bigger than normal football drama. This feels like a franchise reaching another crossroads. One wrong move could create even more division internally. One controversial decision could completely fracture fan trust again. And if Garrett's frustration keeps escalating publicly, the entire NFL world is going to keep paying attention to Cleveland for all the wrong reasons. Which is exactly why mandatory mini-camp may become one of the most important moments of the Browns' offseason. Because if things aren't resolved by then, this situation could spiral into something much uglier. At the end of the day, this situation no longer feels like a simple football disagreement inside the Browns organization. It feels like a growing disconnect between players, leadership, and the direction of the franchise itself. Myles Garrett publicly admitted he no longer feels aligned with where the Browns are heading. The Deshaun-Watson controversy still hangs over everything. Rumors about ownership interference continue spreading online. And right in the middle of all the chaos, Shedeur Sanders has quietly become one of the few things giving fans genuine hope about the future. That's why emotions around this offseason feel so intense. Because many Browns supporters are starting to fear they've seen this story before. A talented roster, massive expectations, internal instability, confusing leadership decisions, and eventually another collapse before things ever truly come together. At the same time, there's still uncertainty everywhere. Maybe Garrett eventually returns fully committed. Maybe the quarterback room stabilizes. Maybe the Browns finally figure things out behind closed doors. The NFL changes quickly and narratives flip fast all the time. But right now, the energy around Cleveland feels incredibly fragile. And if the Browns don't figure this out soon, this offseason may eventually be remembered as the moment the organization started losing control of the locker room, the fan base, and possibly even its future all at once.